Okay, and this is Miles Adair's one-person show, written, directed, and acted by Miles on Charlie Chaplin.
Will Mr. Charles Chaplin take the stand? Mr. Chaplin, the committee has brought about evidence that you are a far left-wing sympathizer, have made frequent pro-Soviet statements, opposed Western capitalism, and have shown discontent with the United States government. What do you say to this?
I think I'm a communist.
Yes, Mr. Chaplin, a communist. You don't believe in personal ownership, liberty, or the freedom of the people. This is a serious matter, and the very security of the free world is at stake. By the next year, 1949, the Soviet Union could culturally destroy the Western world, paving the way for a red United States. Without doing anything, the free world will be tragically lost. This being the case, are you now, or have you ever been, a member of the Communist Party?
Can't say I've had the pleasure.
You admit to being a left-wing sympathizer then? Then why come to America? Why not go to the Soviet Union? I bet they'll greet you with open arms.
I think you're high and mighty up there, don't you, Mr. McCarthy? Running a bloody witch hunt to make yourself look like a damn patriot? Think this is going to change anything?
Mr. Chaplin, you admit to being a left-wing intellectual, and it is this committee's responsibility to protect the American people from far leftists like yourself. Could you tell us exactly why you think it's acceptable to endanger the entire American populace?
You can't. Standing up for basic human rights and what's endangering to the public is only endangering to you.
Could you tell the committee when you started having these wild political fantasies, Mr. Chaplin?
Politics. I never cared much for politics. Left, right, it's all the same evil in the end. But there are people out there. There are people dying in the streets because the good of man has ruined them. I was one of those people. 45 years ago, Newington Workhouse, in London. Charlie, remember, circular motion, Charlie. If you don't have this floor cleaned up, the warden will have us both, and I'm not about to get corrected again. Sid, can I ask you a question? Why are we here? Well, I mean, I know why we're here. Mom couldn't take care of us and all, but why here? Why somewhere so miserable? Charlie, you know how when you throw something away in a wastebasket, it's carried away to a landfill? Well, we're the trash, Charlie. This is the landfill. I guess it makes society look better, you know? There's more rich people in fur coats walking around, tramps like us dying in them. But that's not right. Couldn't people just be equal? I mean, surely they won't listen to us, but if people in power told them, maybe they'll just respect us just a little bit.
What's going on in here? I hear too much talk and nowhere near enough work.
Is he going up to Tom? He's going to lame on. He can't work right.
Were you the one who created this mess?
I'm sorry. It's just that my arm doesn't work so well, and I accidentally knocked.
I don't care about what's accidental. I don't care about your arm, and I sure as hell don't care about your pathetic existence.
Sir, I can't. I really can't.
Listen, boy, talk like that is disrespectful, and being disrespectful gets you corrected.
I'm sorry, sir, but really, I can't.
That's it. Simpson, bring my cane.
Stop!
What did you say, boy?
I said stop. He's crippled. He can't work right. You can't blame him for thinking that he's some degenerate street rat. That doesn't make you an emperor.
You must be the little Chaplin boy I've heard oh so much about. Listen here. There are some people who are lower than others. That's just how the world works. You're going to have to accept the fact that you will forever be a homeless, unlovable dog, just like your parents.
I did it! I spilled the turpentine. I was being reckless and I knocked into it. It was my fault. Punish me, not Tom. No, Tom.
Accept the fact that some people will always be better, and some people are just trash in the gutter.
Stooping to the level of the useless just makes you as bad as them.
People like you are dragging society down with your naive little ideologies.
You think you can change anything just by talking about it? Things will never change.
No one will ever support this mad idea of yours to throw away all that this country stands for. Mr. Chaplin, we understand you came to America in 1914, just before the outbreak of World War I. Was this a way of dodging the British draft?
No. I escaped that injustice. Think of all the men who went to France and never came back at the behest of some emperor 100 miles away who never knew their lie. Me and my brother Sid, you see, we were performers with Fred Connor's vaudeville troupe in England, and a company in California called Keystone Production wired us saying that they'd like me to be in one of their new things. They called it film.
This is when you created your tramp character, running around beating rich men up the backside, stealing for the poor, disrupting peaceful American capitalism. The tramp is an example of communist ideology in its most basic form, is it not?
Charlie, where the hell have you been? It's your big debut, Charlie, and they need you out on set in 5 minutes, or Lemon's gonna have your... What the hell are you wearing?
Well, what do you think, Sid? Should the mustache be a little longer? I don't want to get carried away, you know.
You're wearing eyeliner, Charlie. I think you've been carried away for quite a while. Besides, Lemon just needs a young man who can risk getting run over by a car, not some clown with a thing for women's makeup. There's no time for this.
Ah, and that is where you are wrong, my dearest Sid. People go to the cinema, and what do they see? Buster Keaton, Fatty Arbuckle. They're very talented in their own right, but what are they missing? No, they're not relatable, Sid. Never once have I gone to the cinema and seen a Fatty Arbuckle performance and thought to myself, wow, this reminds me of the time I was a 300-pound menace to society. If you not drop a cane, you were working at a terrible job, making a terrible wage for a terrible boss, you went to the cinema afterwards. Would you like to see some poor fellow's house get swallowed up by the sea? Or would you rather see some robber baron get what's coming to him? Now, Keaton has his stone-faced character, and Douglas Fairbanks is a swashbuckling hero. There's not a whole lot left to work off of, you would think. But I become the tramp. The little Jewish barber with a funny mustache, ill-fitting trousers, and a knack for getting in trouble with the law and the wealthy. Totally, you can't be serious about this show. They're going to rip you to shreds. Our career's going to be over before they've begun. Make them smile, and they'll remember you for a week. Make them laugh, they'll remember you for a lifetime. Now, excuse me, I've got a film to make.
You coward. If you cared about this country, you would have gone to fight in France.
Just because you're a fancy silent film guy doesn't mean you're allowed to get out of a man's real work.
Typical street rat, not wanting to help the greater good.
If you're just going to abandon your country in its time of need, why should you have any say in how it's run?
Fighting with your movies? You can only fight from a trench, not a screen.
The tramp. It's just hope for the poor. Hope that someday things will get better, not some Karl Marx daydream.
Your character in your films consistently mock the American way of life, making us all look idiotic in the eyes of the Soviet Union.
With all due respect, sir, do you really think that it's the films making you look stupid?
You're on thin ice, Chaplin. Better not step so hard. Time and time again, you have riled up the people and turned them against legitimate Western values.
When? World War I, the roaring 20s, the times I stood behind American laborers, the times I stood behind America?
February 7th, 1914. Audiences around the globe wowed by new cinema film, Kid Auto Races, featuring the debut of actor Charles Chaplin.
April 11th, 1915. Chaplin again hits big with new film Tramp, with audiences pouring into the theaters to watch the silent star's next big hit.
April 10th, 1917. Just 4 days after the American declaration of war against Germany and the Central Powers, a group of artists, including popular British comedian Charlie Chaplin, gathered in New York to rally the American people to buy war bonds.
Soldiers, citizens of New York, do your part. With each war bond sold, it's another step closer to putting one up the old Kaiser's backside.
May 3rd, 1919. Actors and filmmakers, including Douglas Fairbanks, Charlie Chaplin, Mary Pickford, and D.W. Griffith, formed the United Artists Corporation, a group formed to protect independent filmmakers from large film companies.
With the introduction of this association, no more can big film business control the artistic direction that a filmmaker wants to take. If we want to succeed, we need to unite.
September 1st, 1920. A bomb has exploded outside J.P. Morgan Bank in New York City, killing 40 and injuring hundreds. Many feel that the perpetrators of the attack are communist sympathizers, leading many to fear a possible communist presence in America.
October 6, 1927. The world's first talking picture, The Jazz Singer, opened to massive success today. Many believe that this is the dawn of a new era in film. The age of the silent film breaks appears to be ending.
October 29, 1929. Wall Street in panic as stocks crash. Billions of dollars worth of stocks gone in an instant as the Dow Jones falls 12%. This will forever be known as a dark day in American history.
Dear Mr. Hurst, I regret to inform you that I will not be attending your cocktail party this Friday. With so many poor on the streets, how can we live in foppish luxury? You may see the poor for what they are. You think they're garbage in the landfill. But I see them for what they really are. People. People who need our help and not our ignorance. Enjoy your party. Sincerely, Charles Chaplin.
You sure you want to lower the great Charlie Chaplin enough to go into a common bar with the rest of us?
You preach well enough from behind your silver screen, but out here in the real world, you're just like the rest of the rich snobs, watching us suffer without lifting a finger to help.
Have you ever even seen one of my films? I'm on your side. I show them what you go through.
Films don't fill hungry bellies.
Bartender. I didn't do much. I sold all my stocks a year ago. Wish they took it all down.
How does it feel to be a rich man sitting comfortably while us dogs starve in the street? Why did talkies run the great silent comedian out of business?
Bartender, buy all these men dinner. On me.
No, I insist. Have it on me.
Turned their backs on me. I was an outcast. The 1930s tried to a close. Things only got worse.
Mr. Chaplin, are you referring to your second divorce with Miss Paulette Goddard? We are all aware of your scandalous mistreatment of women.
This had nothing to do with women. I needed to make a film. Something people could relate to. I needed to bring back my old days. I needed the tramp again. Sid, get your typewriter out. Why? This is why. Adolf freaking Hitler just invaded Poland. Charlie, yeah, that you're concerned about the war and all. It's just that no one wants to see a film about a dictator. We're long past the days of silent shots, Sid. We're entering what could possibly be the most crucial period in film history. And the valid point, it's just that nobody wants to see a film about Hitler. Besides, Hitler's pants fit him properly. It can't be Hitler. It'll have to be someone else, a spoof of the theater who will make people realize they need to stand up to him, and stand up to all the other bullies in this world. Charlie, no one is going to see a film about the war, about the most hated man on earth, starring the second most hated man on earth. And bringing back the tramp. And the audiences love him. What crazed dictator does the tramp look like? I know this is going to be a bit drastic, but it's the only way to save both of our careers. We're going to have the tramp talk. Yes, Sid. Talk. Charlie, what is the tramp going to say? And what is he going to do as Hitler? They're going to run you out of the country for this. They feel that they want to run me out of the country. And so be it. I'll take Una and the kids and go to France or Switzerland or somewhere else where they won't look for me. And if you feel that you know what people want more than me, you can go run your own damn studio. This is my picture, and I will do what I wish with my picture.
You've been using your subversive films to ruin the American dream.
How dare you spread your filthy communist lies in our country?
Stop stirring up un-American malcontentment.
To spread sympathizers like you who are poisoning our great country.
Only a commie would think that films can do anything important in the world. This film, The Great Dictator, it showed a lot of communist sympathies, Mr. Chaplin. You could at least have been more discreet about whose side you were on in the war.
The Great Dictator had nothing to do with communism. It's a film about humanity. May I remind you whose side we were all on during the war?
Chaplin, you can't just attempt to so blatantly woo the public into believing your communist ideas and expect them to go unnoticed. Since coming to America, you have had 3 divorces, 4 wives, received death threats, been called a liar, have had a notorious addiction to sexual activities, abused your loved ones, and been called a tyrant by those who have worked for you. If I were you, I would run far, far away and never return. It seems that you want to be less of an actor and more of an emperor, Mr. Chaplin.
Maybe I will run away. I'll take my family and go. This is a horrid world. It's the kind of world where my children will grow up in, where your children will grow up in, where all of our children will grow up in. We're all getting played. Stand up, all of you.
I think we've all had enough of your imperial tirade, Mr. Chaplin. If you would please step away from the stand.
I'm sorry.
What was that, Mr. Chaplin?
I said I'm sorry! To anyone I've ever hurt, to anyone who thinks that I'm a tyrant, I want to be an emperor, or that I'm a communist, well,
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there's room for everyone. The good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful. But we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned our souls. It has barricaded the world with hate. It has goose-stepped us in misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, but our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for goodness in men. Cries out for universal brotherhood and the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world. Millions of despairing men, women, and children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who continue to hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men, with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate. You love to be unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men. In you the people have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. In the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world. It'll give men a chance to work. It'll give youth a future and old age security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite.
Today, August 5th, 1948, the House Un-American Activities Committee successfully revoked actor Charlie Chaplin's visa. Chaplin has vowed never to return to the United States and instead will live in self-exile in Switzerland.
March 15, 1954, previously blacklisted filmmakers strike back at the persecution of suspected communists in Hollywood with a stream of pro-justice films. Many cite Charlie Chaplin's The Great Dictator as a source of inspiration against injustice.
May 2nd, 1957, former senator and notorious anti-communist persecutor Joseph McCarthy died today. His anti-red campaign is now widely viewed as one of the greatest downfalls of justice in American history.
Today, April 11, 1972, film icon and activist Charlie Chaplin returned to the United States to receive an honorary Academy Award for his lifetime achievement in film. Mr. Chaplin was given a 12-minute standing ovation, the longest in televised history.
I ever thought about doing a one-person show on. So it was freshman year, and I saw it was Peter Marsh's Chulkin? Ian Marsh. No, bad. Yeah. It's hot on here. Ian Marsh did Yard Tolkien, and I was like, whoa, I'm gonna have to do that in 3 years. Who should I do? And I didn't think about it for a couple weeks, and then I actually stumbled upon that video on YouTube. Because, like, being a freshman, I just kind of surfed YouTube like half my life. So I randomly Googled, like, Charlie Chaplin speaking, because I kind of knew who Charlie Chaplin was, but I thought that he didn't talk, because, like, in movies he didn't. And then I found that, and I was like, whoa, this is really cool. So, yeah.
How long did it take to match your timing with the movie?
Not hard, not long at all, because I had been watching that video since freshman year. So I sort of memorized it. I think sophomore year I had it down, and so including that blocking. So except for walking around, and so yeah, I've had that scene down for 2 years, which I really should have done. Please don't do that.
What was your favorite part of the process?
My outside eyes, who are really chill. And I think, this is going to sound corny, but like hanging out with my outside eyes because we're really fun. And as Emma says, we're aggressively chill. We don't stress at all, which is kind of scary.
When did you decide you wanted to work in the whole mustache? And how long did it take you to get it down?
I knew I wanted to do the mustache because it's like, you kind of have to. And I didn't know, but his mustache wasn't real, obviously. From the show. And he couldn't grow one. And so he would use it to make himself look older, because he was like 19 or 20 when he first started in movies. And so they wanted him to look older, and he thought it made him look funnier if he took, originally it was a little bit of axle grease that he would put over his upper lip. It used to be like huge, and then he kind of toned it down. And to get it down took a while. It probably took like 5 runs to figure out. Originally, I was supposed to switch characters and be Sid when he was like, "You're wearing women's makeup. What the hell's with that?" And but I couldn't get it on in time, and so like I had to like apply the spirit gum to my face while saying the line, and that just looks weird. So we just made that a voiceover, and then it worked.
What was your statement?
My statement is your beliefs are fighting for, and the statement is the skeleton, or was it spinal column, did we agree on? Yeah, the spinal column of your show. It's pretty much the thesis, like you read a thesis paper for anything in English. Your statement is like your thesis of your show.
Did you always know that you wanted to do the accent? And how long did you do it?
For a while, I contemplated it. I was like, should I do it? Should I not? And I was like, well, there's no videos of him talking. Turns out there's 3 movies where he talks. And those were like the only time that I was able to get down, because there's not a whole lot of recordings of his voice, so I had to watch those 3 movies and figure out his voice and go from there.
What did you learn about yourself in this whole one-person show /
Kind of how to manage stress, because like this is probably the most stressful thing I've ever done so far, and how to manage stress and not go crazy. So.
In your process of coming to know Charlie, what was your connection with him? What did you discover was your connection with him that drove you to continue?
I like satire, and so did Charlie, and so that was sort of the main thing. And politically, we're pretty similar. I'm not as, he was pretty far left. I'm from it. And yeah, he wasn't really a communist, but they thought he was. And I don't know, I just kind of always had a fun connection with him.
Charlie Chaplin had kind of like a lot going on in his life. He was all over the place. What made you decide that this was the story you wanted to tell?
So, yeah, he had a lot going on. He had, like, I kind of touched on it a little bit. He had 4 wives. He had like 13 kids that we know of. We think there's like 10 in Mexico somewhere. And I'm not kidding, he went to Mexico and kind of, and he had a bunch of kind of illegitimate kids. There's, and all of his kids are actors, and they're all active right now. In fact, there's a Robert Downey Jr. movie just called Chaplin, which is about Charlie Chaplin, and Geraldine Chaplin, who's his granddaughter, plays his mom. And so they're everywhere. And so, but he also was he was involved in this murder plot, which I didn't know until like a month and a half ago, that involving Hearst. They were on this yacht, and there's all these famous people, and Hearst had a mistress, kind of Marion Davies, who was having another affair with this just random dude. And then Hearst disappeared for a while on the ship, and then the dude was found dead, and there were only like 4 people that were really suspects, and Chaplin was one of them. But like, he wasn't even there, he was probably just getting drunk or something. And, yeah, I don't think he killed anyone. I hope not. We'll never know. So they never investigated. The ship got salvaged in World War II. So, yeah. But yeah, I kind of just decided on the political aspect just because it was sort of the bigger one. He never stood trial at the House Un-American Activities Committee. I kind of added that into the show because he got kicked out of America in the most kind of weird way, sneaky way. He got on a boat to go back to England. And while he was on the boat, his wife, at the time, came up to him and was like, "You just got kicked out of America," because he'd also left New York Harbor. And he came back once, and that was to get his Oscar. And then he left right afterwards and went back to England, or went back to Switzerland where he died.
impressed in The Great Dictator as
Since deep Warren. I was like, it's gonna be deep, isn't it? So, The Great Dictator is, you touched on it, Charlie's World War II film where he spoofs Hitler. And it's his last film as the tramp with the mustache and everything, although they don't call him the tramp, so he made it, but whatever. And he, at the end, he does that speech. That's thanks for Charlie. And then afterwards, he talks about how it's about like a Jewish barber who accidentally becomes this dictator. And he's been in a coma for 20 years. It's funny. And falls in love with this chick. And he talks about how like humanity, and he's kind of humanist. So maybe we'll see. You don't know, 'cause it's the future.